Hey guys, welcome in, welcome in. I am currently just working on my new base right now in this cave. I'll just be working on the pathways and whatnot while I read you guys some pretty terrifying true skinwalker stories. And I will say, the third one is the most scary, in my opinion. So sit back, relax, grab a snack, and enjoy. Let's get straight into it. This is going to be story one, my skinwalker experience while camping. To start things off, I should say I'm not the best storyteller. I've read a lot of posts on here, and most people write these way better than I probably will, so bear with me. I'm also going to change the names of everyone for including privacy. I've thought about posting this for a while, but every time I just type it out, I end up deleting it. Because part of me still thinks maybe there's a normal explanation of what happened, and we just didn't figure it out. The thing that keeps bothering me, though, is that four of us were there and we all remember the same parts. This happened during the summer of 2025. I live near the Appalachian Mountains in the northwest corner of Northern Carolina. And if you've ever been out there, you know how huge the forests are. There are miles of woods with old logging roads, dirt trails, and random clearings people just sometimes camp in. You can go a long time without seeing another person. I've always liked exploring places that, even though it's probably not the smartest idea sometimes. A few friends asked if I wanted to go on a camping trip for about 6 days somewhere deep in the mountains than we'd normally go. I didn't really have anything planned that week, so I said yes. Looking back, I kind of wish I had thought about it more before agreeing. The day we left, I packed my clothes, my tent, my sleeping bag, and basic camping stuff. The plan was to meet at a clearing one of my friends had found online. It was about a 40-minute drive from where I live. The other three had already left early that afternoon, so I was the last one heading out. While I was driving, we were on FaceTime, and they asked if I could stop somewhere and grab food for the trip. So I stopped at a small grocery store and picked up hot dogs, potato chips, marshmallows, and some other stuff we could cook over the fire. When I walked back to my car, the sky had that orange color it gets right before the sun sets behind the mountain. The three friends I was meeting were people I've known for years. I'll call the first one Jake. He was the one who planned the trip and was always finding weird trails or camping spots online. The second friend I'll call Liam. He liked camping but wasn't really the exploring abandoned or remote places type. The third friend I'll call Marcus. Marcus was usually the one who brought alcohol on trips and convinced people to do dumb things. Eventually, the paved road turned into gravel and then a narrow dirt road through the trees. Around that time, my phone lost signal, which didn't surprise me because that happens all the time out there. By the time I got to the clearing, it was almost dark. Jake's truck, Liam's car were parked near the tree line, and Marcus had already started the fire. Everything felt normal at first. We set up tents, cooked some food, and sat around the fire talking for hours. Jake and Marcus decided that they were just going to sleep by the fire, and Liam set up our tents a little further away. The first 2 days of the trip were honestly normal. We explored some old trails during the day and hung around the campsite at night. The woods were quiet, but in a normal way. You could hear crickets, wind in the trees, and sometimes animals somewhere far away. Night 3 is when things started feeling strange. We were sitting around the fire again when Liam suddenly stopped talking and said he heard something in the trees behind us. Jake grabbed a flashlight and shined it out there. After a few seconds, the light looked like it landed on what looked like a deer standing between two trees, maybe 40 feet away. The weird thing was it wasn't moving at all. It was just standing there, staring at us. Most deers run as soon as they see people, but this one didn't react at all. The longer we looked at it, the more uncomfortable it felt. It looked really thin, and its head was tilted slightly to the side, like it was studying us. Around that time, I started noticing a smell in the air. At first it was faint, but it kept getting stronger. It smelled like rotten, like something dead somewhere nearby. The heavy, sour smell stick to your nose. The smell seemed like it was coming from the direction of the trees where the deer was standing. After a moment, the deer stepped aside, but the way it moved looked stiff and awkward. Then it turned, walked back into the woods. Not long after that, the smell slowly faded away. Nobody talked much after that, and eventually we all went to sleep. Sometime later in that night, I woke up because I heard leaves crunching outside my tent. At first, I thought one of the guys was walking around the campsite. Then I heard a voice quietly say my name and tell me to come here. It sounded like Jake. I almost answered, but something about the way the voice sounded felt wrong. The tone was flat and strange. I unzipped my tent a little bit and looked out towards the fire and saw Jake and Marcus asleep where they had been earlier. A few seconds later, I heard footsteps moving through the campsite. They circled around my tent slowly and stopped right next to it. Through the tent fabric, I could hear breathing, and it was really close. Then that same rotten smell came back, way stronger this time. It smelled like something was dead, was standing right outside my tent. After a moment, the footsteps started again. I heard them cross the campsite towards Liam's tent, and then eventually head back towards the trees. After that, everything went quiet again. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. When the sun started coming up, I got out of my tent, and Jake was already awake. I asked him if he'd been walking around during the night, and he looked confused and said no. Liam came out of his tent a few minutes later, looking pale, and immediately asked Marcus if he had been outside calling his name during the night. Marcus was still asleep. Jake ended up finding footprints near the edge of the clearing. They looked almost human, but not quite. They were long and narrow, and the toes were pressed deeper into the dirt than the heels, like whatever had made them was walking strangely. The tracks went from the woods, circle around everyone's tent, and then went straight back into the forest. We packed up that same morning and left the campsite days earlier than we planned. The walk back to our cars was quiet, and nobody really said much. Even now, none of us can agree on exactly what we saw that night. But we all remember the voices, and none of us have gone back to that place since. Oh my god, that is terrifying. That is terrifying. They definitely, that deer they saw, 100% a skinwalker. If I saw that deer and the way it walked that night, I would have been like, all right, we're going. I'm not, I'm not spending another single second out here. Oh wow, that's terrifying. All right, let's get on to the next story. All right, this is going to be story 2. My encounter with something outside a Navajo res. It was 2010 and I was driving back home to Los Angeles and spending Christmas in Kentucky with the family. I-40 all the way. It gets nighttime and I get sleepy, so I decide to pull off the next exit and get a hotel room for the night. It was in Holbrook, Arizona, about 20-30 minutes east of Flagstaff. I get the room, get some Taco Bell, then out of curiosity, drive around back roads and the desert eating. While driving, I was flipping through the local radio stations and found one what sounded like Native American chants and music. I turned it up loud and rolled the windows down, just taking in the desert night. Thinking back, maybe this is what attracted what I saw. Anyways, I get back to my hotel and park in the back lot. In front of me is a raised parking lot with about a 5 to 6 foot embankment leading up to it. I open my doors, grab my bag of clothes, and start grabbing other things out, and I hear the loudest, weirdest roar I've ever heard. It sounded like a bear roar mixed with a pig squeal and baby cries. I look up, and then there's this thing standing there on their parking lot above me. From what I could tell, it was at least 7 feet tall, maybe bigger. It had the head of a wolf and long arms stretched past its knees. I see that, and I break out into a run straight to my room. Leaving my car wide open, I get to my door, and I'm so freaked out I'm fumbling around the key card for a second, and I hear the roar again, except this time it was right in my ear. I finally get the door open, lock it, take all the sheets off my bed, take them to the bathroom, and lock that door too. I ended up sleeping in that tub that night. I spent most of the nights researching that thing on the internet, and that's when I learned about skinwalkers. And where I was staying was right on the edge of a Navajo reservation. Luckily, I made it through the night without incident, and incredibly, nothing was stolen from my car. I had thousands of dollars of equipment in the back, and the doors had been wide open all night since I ran from that thing. I barely slept. And as soon as the sun was up, I got the hell out of there. I had stopped at a gas station store in Hallbrook before I could get to the next interstate, and they didn't open till 7. But there was already a line out front waiting for liquor, I guess. So I'm waiting in the line and everyone else, and a guy strikes up a conversation with me, asking about where I'm from, what I'm doing so close to the res, etc. And for some reason, I just blurted out what happened to me the night before. He looked at me in the eyes for a second and laughed and said, "Usually they don't mess with white people." That's my story. I don't know if it was a skinwalker or what the hell it was, but it definitely opened up my worldview. If something like that exists, what else is out there that isn't supposed to be real? That must have been terrifying. My lord, I think I would have shit bricks. Oh, I mean, good on him for running away. Oh god, that must have been terrifying. Wow. I think that first war, like the babies dying in a bear, like, oh my god, with the pig squeal, I definitely would have pissed my pants. Alright, that was a crazy story. Let's go on to the next one. Alright, this is going to be story 3. The deepest fundamental fear I have ever experienced. First off, this is a report, and I apologize about how I framed my previous upload. And I'd like to share my experience on what was easily the most terrifying moment of my life. And in my opinion, contact with something undoubtedly vengeful. I'm going to do my best to describe this encounter with as many details as possible. I decided to take a walk a few nights ago. I live along the Mississippi River near East River Road in Minneapolis. I've taken this route many times before, day and night, and had previously walked the same route around the same time, a few nights before this took place. I had a few strange experiences on my way down the woods along the riverbank. On my way down the large staircase to the riverbank, I had heard a couple chattering above. I looked up the stairs multiple times and saw no one, but I swear to God, I had heard them say, "He won't make it back." 15 minutes later on my walk, things were going great. I was enjoying my time in the woods, and peace was filling my soul. Keep in mind, I have a history of camping, hunting, and hiking, lonesome in the woods, and being alone in the dark has never once scared me. I have been to therapy out of curiosity, and I am about as neurotypical as it gets. The sun was ascending past the horizon, and I decided to continue onward. I reached a hard to make out bend in the path that I could not see past, and all of a sudden a woman's voice popped in my head. "Turn around." I gleefully ignored it and continued on my merry way. Turn around. I decided on a log that would be a suitable stopping point in front of me and continued onwards. Turn around, echoed through my skull the second I reached my prestigious stopping point. At this moment, a wave of inexpressible anxiety shivered its way through my core. I was shaking to the bone. I turned on my heel and marched my ass back the way I came. Something deep in my essence told me if I did not turn around at that moment, I would be dead. The sun had descended past the horizon, and coincidentally, at this moment, I was swallowed by total darkness. The feeling of being watched does not even begin to express the utter dread I was exposed to. I was being followed. I know not if it was animal, human spirit, or something in between. The presence of impending doom behind me was unmistakable. I have never known such fear. I've had panic attacks from college, grief from a breakup with a woman I thought I would marry, and felt the crushing weight of debt. And I've never felt such utter hopelessness in my entire life. I heard the woman's voice again. Do not look back. And I heeded and marched, ignoring the shadows flickering in the outskirts of my vision. I rounded a bend, climbed a hill, and started to feel a release of the presence. I still felt like I was being followed, but from far away, enough distance not to do me any harm at the very least. I slowed my pace in the slightest, and this turned out to be one of the two mistakes made that night. In my brief period of relaxation, I heard another voice that was not mine, a deep, raspy voice that wanted none other than to pronounce its presence. Hey. I felt every single muscle in my back clench as I did everything in my power to put space between me and that presence. My skin felt like it was shredding. Shivers do not even begin to describe the fight or flight reflex my body was going through. My body wanted to sprint, but something deep down told me if I ran, I would activate a prey/predator instinct and the hunt would begin. 10 minutes of utter pain go by, with every step slightly echoed by another that was not my own. The massive staircase that led me down to the riverbank was back in sight. In that moment, I talked myself into insanity. I did what any rational human would do. Decide to enjoy the beauty of Metropolis before me and snap a quick picture. I have zero survival instincts, apparently. Looking back on this was the first time I stopped moving since the initial counter, feeling I was slightly safe due to my escape route being so close. My long strides immediately halted at a perfect angle, and behind me, I heard not one, not two, but 3 steppos echo off the asphalt. I power walked harder than I've ever power walked before, and the second before I put my foot on the stair, every single one of my hairs on my neck stood at attention. It felt like something was breathing down my neck. It would be no exaggeration to say I jumped on the first flight of stairs. Once I scaled the third flight, the impending doom began to recede, and a feeling of indescribable warmth filled my chest. All I could muster in my own head was, thank you God, thank you God, thank you God, thank you God. Once I neared the top, I was about to round the last bend before entering back into the light of the city. I risked a peek into the thick darkness below me and saw nothing but empty trail. I have never, ever experienced this primal fear in my 24 years of life on this planet. Wow, that is terrifying. My lord. I'm sorry, but this guy has the survival instincts of a goldfish. What are you doing taking a picture when there's oh my god. This guy was so close to dying or something. He's like, "Oh, let me just take a picture." Oh. Alright guys, that's going to be the end of the video. I hope y'all enjoyed all these pretty creepy skinwalker stories. I know I did. But if you did, let me know down in the comments below. If y'all have any suggestions on the next video or what I should read next, let me know. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace. And make sure to stay safe out there, guys. Don't get eaten up by any skinwalkers.